Hello and welcome back, everyone. Thank you very much for tuning back in again. This is the final screencast recording for the part of the lesson that has looking at television broadcast media. For this part of the screencast and lesson, we're going to be analyzing the two videos that have been uploaded for you, one from Fox News and one from ABC, on Joe Biden's inauguration. So we're going to analyze forms of bias and, of course, delve a little bit deeper on analyzing these two network sources based off of what you watched. So let's go and get started. First, let's talk about the Fox News source. Of course, the topic here was Joe Biden's inauguration, and the main point from this video, and I'm sure you probably got this quite clearly when you watched this, was that the way that the media covered Joe Biden's inauguration was definitely very fawning and overdramatic and it was almost like a love affair. And Fox News was basically questioning, does he really deserve the praise? Is this actually really fair, considering the fact that what we know about the media and their treatment of former President Donald Trump? Here are some subpoints from that source. So first off, they were basically saying on the five that the media is so predictable in their love for Trump and that they now, of course, don't really have that, but they have a love for Biden. So, of course, that form was basically meant to be a form of sarcasm here in the sense that the media doesn't love Trump, but in that they're so happy that Joe Biden is president. The press is lopsided against Trump and in favor of Biden is one of those subconscious points that is pretty much brought up throughout the entire panel discussion on the five. Additionally, here, the press overinflated Biden's inauguration speech. A lot of people on the panel found Biden's speech to be actually very boring and melodramatic and a little bit somber and not really the same type of FDR, JFK, hope, full message for America. They also contended that the media is not even fair with the first ladies. One of the panelists brought up the fact that the media was fawning over the idea that people like Clinton and Michelle Obama and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris had better fashion sense, but they of course did not cover the fact that Melania Trump was a supermodel and probably had better fashion sense. And they also talked about how this is not really a good way to cover the president because they want a return to, quote, normalcy so bad. But normalcy for who and what is normal? And the five is basically saying that, the media's perception of what normal is only what aligns their pockets and aligns their needs and special interests. They also said that the Biden team has been very secretive and disciplined about their specific agenda and what they're going to do. They haven't really been transparent, even after he was deemed the projected winner back in 2020. The five basically pointed out that he hasn't been so straightforward. And I think it was the head narrator for the show who said that the press is clearly against the American people who supported Trump and that they should be careful because in their coverage of Biden, they're systematically ignoring the millions of people who heavily supported Trump. And so this is a dangerous dialogue and a dangerous avenue to venture down. But what they were saying here is that pretty much this is a sampling of what you can expect over the next 4 years. We can prepare for a very long 4 years of pro-Biden and anti-Trump rhetoric, even though he's not the president anymore, from a press that call themselves objective. And I found this quote to be really powerful, mostly just because, when you think about it, the press's job is to be that medium between us and our elected officials. But if there's biases and, of course, hidden agendas and special interests involved in that, that just makes the whole process much more messy. Okay, let's talk about buzzwords here. While I was watching this segment, I did find the following. Of course, the word fawning is used in the title, but also throughout the segment as well. Biden's arms embracing America. That was a clever soundbite used from Fox News, picking on CNN, Jeffrey's Tubin. Drools for Joe. National nightmare is over. Of course, that's referring to a previous historical quote between Ford and Nixon. The press are like children. That quote, I believe, was from Greg Gutfeld. Exactly. Trump has left a hole in their lives. The media is softcore fluffery, right? Media's gassy stew. Clearly, these words make you elicit some type of response just based off of what you're hearing and seeing. Even if you don't agree with what they're saying, the fact is that these are definitely apparent buzzwords and phrases. Analysis. Was this a good source? Was it a bad source? Well, the lead-in from Greg Gutfeld was plain and simple, but also humorous. And honestly, on a media news network, on TV, you have to be straightforward, apparent, and hook the viewer. And even if you're not a fan of these types of Republican talking points, the fact is that this was an effective start. The use of sound bites, too, by the way, throughout the segment was effective, as they, of course, pitched on other media news networks from CNN to ABC, which we're going to get to in a second, too. And he tried to give everyone even amounts of time who's on the panel, which I found to be helpful. Even Juan Williams, who is pretty much the honorary Democrat analyst on the panel. So I thought that was good that nobody was really shouting over each other. Everyone seemed to behave like adults, which is nice. They used the panel format too to discuss talking points, which were actually diverse and substantive. So, for example, the panel setup I think is really helpful. Instead of just one person dominating the conversation, this was incredibly helpful. They also brought up multiple points and examples of bias to prove analysis, so I thought that was good. It wasn't just about Joe Biden's inauguration. This is a longstanding problem as far as media objectivity or lack thereof. They brought up situations regarding fashion, situations, regarding other aspects too that are trivial and frivolous, and the real aspects of governing a country. So as you guys can see, the ABC source was quite different in their coverage of Inauguration Day. And in fact, if you were to watch both of those videos back to back, you would feel like we're in two different Americas. Now, the main point here from ABC was that Joe Biden's inauguration was a historic moment for America during a time of great historic struggle. But they also said that Joe Biden basically now has the mandate from America to lead, and lead he should, according to ABC. Some major subpoints from the video are as follows. They talked about his vice president more, Kamala Harris as the first woman / black / South Asian vice president in U.S. history. They also talked about healing a fractured America and how Biden plans to do that. Of course, they talked about his speech on Inauguration Day, calling for unity and putting aside petty partisan politics. And they talked about his actions as president on day one, signing a stack of executive orders. They didn't talk about how many, though, which I thought was quite interesting. The inauguration was a relief, according to ABC, and I'm sure that they mean that it was a relief from the Trump years and tumultuous times of showmanship. They also, of course, had to talk about Trump, and so they did. They mentioned that the outgoing president broke 150 years of American tradition from going to your successor's inauguration. They did note that the audience size was limited, mostly due in part to COVID-19 practices and restrictions. They said that the members of Congress were, of course, wore body armor, and I think this kind of shows a little bit more of their pretenses to say how the memory of the January 6th riots are still fresh in their heads. Now, as far as buzzwords here from that segment, they pretty much said the following few things that I picked up and I copy-pasted here for you. The whole day was less entertaining and more serious. They talked about Trump specifically, and they used these exact words, last act of vandalism. I literally held my breath, said one of the commentators. One of the commentators also said this was peaceful, and she just, moaned a huge sigh of relief. Unprecedented level of security, and of course they're talking here about the need for a secure inauguration and transfer of power. They talk about the reality of the speech and the whole day, that it was somber because of COVID-19 and everything else going on, but it was hopeful because there's a transfer of the guard. They said that Biden captured their imaginations. They said that he is, in fact, the oldest person to be sworn in as president, which I'm surprised they mentioned that, because typically that might be viewed as one of the weaknesses of Biden himself, the fact that he is the oldest, and that doesn't always make voters feel the most comfortable. And they did, of course, talk about his mandate to lead, that his approval rating is at 68%, which is pretty high for an incoming president. All right, analysis from me to you. Was this good? Was it bad? Well, here's what I think. Yeah, so I thought that it was helpful that they included sound bites of Biden's actual speech. I thought that was good. Good choice here. Additionally, they included focus on celebrities at inauguration. To be honest, some people care about that, some people don't. The media, of course, especially left media, tends to focus more on the celebrity star power of politics, and maybe average Americans who might watch Fox may not even care about that, as far as the celebrities like Lady Gaga, Garth Brooks, and Jennifer Lopez who sang at the inauguration. They included interview segments with pundits, so of course this wasn't just one narrator talking. They did pick and pull from a variety of experts and sources throughout the segment. They provided a background of who Joe Biden is, and I thought that they did a great job of that, talking about who the man is, holistically speaking. And they focused on new senators too, who broke historical boundaries, like in Georgia with Ossoff and Warnock, and other people too who would break historic boundaries on not only that day but other days as well. And they also talked about moving forward here at the very end. The Democrats pretty much have a majority in all three branches. Well, actually, to be exact, the House, the Senate, and the executive branch. So now moving forward here, what does the future hold? ABC, of course, would probably be quick to point out that the future is bright under this type of guard and leadership. So as you guys can see, those are the things here that are mentioned with the Biden inauguration um, that, of course, make you maybe feel a certain type of way as far as, good, bad, indifferent from the two sources that were mentioned here. So thank you very much for tuning in. And I hope you found this guide to be incredibly helpful for the completion of your template as well.